Slendy, ego, Slendy, hey. Hit it out the park. Hit it with a strike. From the national anthem to the bottom of the night. I'm in Slendy, ego, Slendy, ego, Slendy, ego, Slendy, hey. You already know what's up. What's that? Another home run. But you know the job ain't done till we hold that trophy up. Hey.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 479 of the Talking Friars podcast and YouTube show. Ben Fadden with you here. It is September 28, 2023. Padres have an off day, and technically they are still alive. They have not been officially eliminated yet from postseason contention. Right now, as it stands, the Chicago Cubs, they are losing. That's what the Padres need to stay alive tonight. They need the Miami Marlins to lose tonight. And right now, the Miami Marlins are playing the New York Mets, and the Mets are up 1-0. So things are going right for the Padres right now. If those two teams lose, the Padres will stay alive going into their final regular season series of the season against the Chicago White Sox in Chicago. So they're holding on there by a thread, and it looks like they will hold on. We'll see what happens there with the Mets and the Cubs tonight, but seems like things are looking good for the Padres so far tonight. The main thing that I wanted to hit on today was Juan Soto, the topic of Juan Soto. Should he be traded? Do the Padres need to trade Juan Soto? There were a couple things that came out. I think Jeff Passan, I think this was yesterday, but this was the first time that I heard it or actually watched the show. Was today. Jeff Passan went on Baseball is Dead, had some comments about Juan Soto. So I'm going to play those. And it got obviously a lot of traction on social media today when I posted that. Again, Passan on Baseball is Dead with Jared Carrabis and Dallas Braden. He went on that show there. And then Hector Gomez later in the day, he also put out a tweet about Juan Soto and the Padres potentially keeping Juan Soto long term. And there's a little bit conflicting things here. So going to get to both of them. If you want to join the show, you can click that link in the chat. I believe it's pinned up at the top of the YouTube chat as always. If you want to make sure I get your comment or your question, you can use that super chat button. Supports the channel, makes it very easy for me to see your comment or your question. So I appreciate anyone that does that. And a reminder, you can use my code TalkingFriars for $20 off your SeatGeek order, and check out Breaking Tea and Foco. Foco has some great Padres bobbleheads and collectibles, and Breaking Tea, some great Padres, Aztecs, Wave, San Diego Sports swag. And by the way, San Diego State this weekend against Air Force, pretty big game there. And San Diego Wave, pretty big match there as well in Portland against Portland Thorns. We'll see if Sophia Smith plays for Portland, but that match is for first place in the league, which is obviously huge. So that's going to be big. That's coming up this weekend. Obviously, Padres and the White Sox. Just real quick, by the way, San Diego Wave, there's going to be a watch party at Fair Play, so come on down. Wave Thorns watch party. There's going to be giveaways. There's going to be a fundraiser. There's a raffle giving away some of the U.S. Women's National Team. I believe Kaylin Sheridan, some posters or art drawings there as well. So come out to Fair Play, support San Diego Wave there, and you'll be able to watch the match. They'll have it on there as well. All right, let's get to Jeff Passan first, because Jeff Passan, this was just like in order of how I discovered this. Jeff Passan on with Jared Carrabis, Dallas Braden, Jay and Joey. I say Jay and Joey because I don't know their actual like full names, but that's what they're known as on that show. And Jeff went on, and Jared was asking Jeff Passan about Juan Soto and will the Padres trade him if he's open, or if the Padres are open to trading Juan Soto. Who are some teams? What are those possibilities? And so here is Jeff Passan. It's a little over 2 minutes that I clipped and put on social media about Juan Soto and his future with the Padres. Jeff Passan, before I play this, Jeff Passan, he is like the number one. I think he has overtaken someone like Ken Rosenthal. Not like to disrespect Ken, but Jeff, he is someone that I think has overtaken Ken Rosenthal. He's overtaken everyone as the number one most reliable baseball insider for Major League Baseball. So when he says something like this, I'm going to put some stock into it. Now, when you will hear this, it's definitely some speculation, and it's not him reporting stuff. But I'm assuming that some of this stuff that he is saying here, it's based off of informed speculation, if you will. Like, he has talked to people in this situation that are inside the building, and he knows some information. He's not just like speculating like any other fan would about this. I think he knows some information. So here's Jeff Passan again, a little over 2 minutes talking about Juan Soto, the Padres, and then he names a couple teams here as well.
Could theoretically get down to around 200 without moving Juan Soto, right? Like let's look at who's coming off. I mean, it's 30 million with Snell and Hader just off the top. It's 10 million with Pomerantz. It's, I mean, they already got rid of Jerkson Profar, but it's
to help Jeff out here, because he was kind of struggling with some other guys that are coming off of the books. We discussed this on a past show, but yeah, Snell, Hader, maybe Waka, maybe Lugo, maybe Martinez, Luis Garcia, maybe Rich Hill, G-Man Choi, Gary Sanchez, Garrett Cooper, Drew Pomerantz, maybe Tim Hill, Nelson Cruz, Adam Engel. Those are the guys that are going to be coming off of the books, or maybe coming off the books at the end of this season. So here we go, Jeff. This is where he gives his thoughts on what he thinks is going to happen with Juan Soto.
I think they're going to move Soto. I'm not positive about that. I just think that when it's all said and done, is this a championship team next year if you have Juan Soto on it? Is this a championship team with the rotation that you've got? No, it's not. And I'm sorry, but you have to cash in as much as you can if you're the Padres right now, because you are stuck with Manny Machado and Xander Bogaerts into their 40s for hundreds of millions of dollars. And you have Fernando Tatis Jr. for 300 plus million still. And that's not a move. Like, it's 3 unmovable contracts right there. And so, yeah, you do have to move Juan Soto, and who should be in? Everyone. I mean, the Red Sox, yes. I think the Mets are a scary possibility for Juan Soto. And I think the Mets probably are in a better position to offer prospects to go out and get him, because I think Mets ownership has shown the aptitude and the desire to sign guys like Juan Soto long term that the Red Sox have not. And I understand Rafael Devers, thumbs up on that one. Sox stepped up there, but generally speaking, when it comes to free agents, especially their own, the Sox history is not particularly good when it comes to big dollar guys.
You did. Sorry. I just wanted to make sure you guys could hear that audio. My bad. So Jeff Passan, I think the number one reporter in Major League Baseball now, and again, that's not like to disrespect John Heyman or Ken Rosenthal or anyone like that, but Jeff Passan, he's not someone that really that much tweets out like gossip or like what could happen. Mostly he tweets out when something happens. And when he says it, it's like, okay, it's happening. He probably has been wrong before, but obviously, like Ken Rosenthal, at least for Padres fans, what sticks out is him misleading Padres fans about us. Oh, we were going to go get Max Scherzer in 2021, right? That sticks out. Jeff Passan, there's nothing that sticks out to me about something that he gets wrong. Now, this is not him reporting that Juan Soto is going to get traded. It's not him reporting that, the Padres are definitely going to be getting rid of Juan Soto, and the Mets and the Red Sox, they're definitely going to be going for Juan Soto. Like, this isn't, he's just speculating. And I don't think this is like reckless. What is reckless? I don't think this is reckless speculation. I think that he has been talking to people and he is much closer to the situation than other people are, than normal fans are. So when he says something, when he brings up that he thinks the Padres are going to trade Juan Soto, I'm going to put some stock into that. I'm not sitting here and saying that I am definitely on board that, yeah, I think the Padres now are definitely trading Juan Soto. I actually think that they will not trade Juan Soto. But it does, when Jeff says it, it does definitely. I'm taking this much more seriously now because Jeff brought this up. And to go through some of his points that he said here, okay? Before I get to the Hector Gomez stuff, I think they're going to move Soto. Is this a championship team with Soto? No, it's not. Not with this rotation, is one of the points that Jeff made. And my rebuttal to that, my comeback at Jeff, if I had Jeff on the show here about that, is I disagree. I mean, can this team be a championship team with Soto? He doesn't think so. But going into the year with Juan Soto on this team, I'm sorry, a lot of experts, a lot of these guys that get paid way more money than I do, or any other people do, talking about this team, talking just about Major League Baseball in general, they, on much bigger platforms, MLB Network, ESPN, ESPN.com, they had the Padres winning the World Series with Juan Soto on this roster, right? And the rotation. No, it's not a championship team with this rotation, Passan says. Well, going into the year, there were question marks at the back end of the rotation, was there not? Michael Wacha, Seth Lugo, Nick Martinez. There were questions, but a lot of people still picked the Padres to go to the World Series. Some picked them to win the World Series with question marks at the back end of the rotation, with vets at the front of the rotation, right? With Soto on the team. A lot of people picked the Padres to go to the World Series. So I think next year, a lot of the guys on this roster are probably going to still be there. And the core guys, obviously, the big guys, you're still going to have guys at the front of that rotation that are still going to be there. Sure, there's question marks, but there were my point is there were question marks this year, and that didn't stop people from picking the Padres to go win the World Series, or at least get to the World Series before the season started. Obviously, that's not going to happen. And all those people that picked the Padres to go win the World Series or get to the World Series were wrong. So if Jeff's now going to say, okay, I don't think the Padres are a championship team with Soto because of what he has seen now, okay. But I'm just going back at him like, well, you don't know what's going to happen in the offseason with the Padres and their additions that they make to the rotation. What if, who knows, you can never count out the Padres in anything. What if they bring in some of the big pitchers in free agency? Maybe it's not Snell, but it's someone else that's to a shorter term deal, and that can replace Blake Snell. And maybe they bring back Michael Wacha on the club options, or they don't, and they can find a middle point. Maybe they bring back Seth Lugo, and the rotation's looking a little bit better. And they fill some of the holes in the bullpen. And you still have Barlow, still have Suarez at the back end of that bullpen. You still have Tatis, Manny. Let's say they keep Soto, Bogarts, Cronenworth. I don't think he's going to have as bad of a year. Let's say they keep him and they don't trade him. They keep that contract. Ha-Sung Kim. You're telling me that this team's going to not be in position to make the postseason next season? I think that they can be. At least maybe that's just my mind really hoping that this team doesn't fall flat on their face again in 2024 like they did in 2023. But I think that they're a championship contending team with Juan Soto on the team. And Jeff also says you have to cash in if you're the Padres because you're stuck with Tatis, Manny, Bogarts, these unmovable contracts. You could maybe put someone like Yu Darvish on there, put someone like Jake Cronenworth on there. I think his contract is movable, but you're going to have to attach something to that probably. Maybe that's someone like Juan Soto. But you have to cash in on if you're the Padres. And I get the point about like, well, if you don't think that this team's a championship team for 2024, then why keep Soto? Yeah, you have to cash in, get something before he goes and leaves you in free agency. But I'm with the viewpoint of, well, no, the Padres, they're trying to go win next season. Maybe people in the organization don't believe this team's a championship team, but if AJ Preller continues to be here, he's going to go all in. I would think you can lower payroll and still be all in because you have a lot of talent already on this team that's still under contract that has to be in that payroll for next season. And again, it's about making the right moves. I said this on a past show. It's about making the right moves, not always about spending the most money, but making the right moves. And if the Padres can do that, then they're going to be in a good position going into next season, right? So for me, I would spin this back on Jeff. You have to cash in if you're the Padres. Yeah, you have to cash in, not the way that you're saying about getting something back for Soto so that you can have some young talent because you're going to be stuck with 3 big contracts. So you need that young talent that's not making much money, could probably play multiple positions, can be in that lineup or be in that rotation and be very impactful. Yeah, that would be cool to have too. And hopefully that's coming here in a couple years. But I'm thinking it from the other side. You have to cash in. I agree on that, but not in the way he's thinking. You have to cash in because you have Juan Soto on this team. It's not a guarantee that you're going to have this much talent offensively on your team again, right? You're going to have Manny, Tatis, Xander, right? But Soto to that, going into a walk year, Soto in a walk year, you're not going to have that again, or who knows if you're going to have that again, right? And these guys, they're not getting younger. And the Padres I go back to the Padres acquiring Juan Soto. They acquired him for 3 pennant races. They didn't acquire him to go trade him and give up on him. They acquired him, gave up all that, knowing that he very well could walk in free agency. They wanted 3 pennant races out of Juan Soto, and they wanted to take that chance. And I love that. Them going all in, I love that. At least you tried. And that's my stance on this here with Juan Soto. At least you try in 2024. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But don't bail on Juan Soto in a walk year with the other talent that's on this team in this offense and just on the roster in general. Don't, because I think it makes their chances worse of winning a World Series if they trade Juan Soto. Because Juan Soto, some people like to bag on him and, oh, it's a bunch of walks. They don't pay him for walks and all that. And sure, they don't just pay him for walks, and the defense isn't that great and all that, but he's one of the best offensive players in baseball. And that's this season. And that is in what he might consider a down year for him. I consider it a little bit disappointing of a season for Juan Soto. So I view it as, no, you have to cash in on this opportunity that you have right now. You can't control if you have another Juan Soto coming onto your team in a few years, but you have Juan Soto right now in a walk year. And my gut tells me that Juan Soto is going to have one heck of a season next year, obviously assuming that he can be healthy. In a walk year, he is going to go off next season. I want Juan Soto to be a San Diego Padre in 2024. I want to give it that chance. I want to give him a chance to be in the same lineup as Tatis, who's going to have a full offseason, Xander Bogaerts, who's going to be more comfortable and he's going to be healthy going into next season. The guy hit over 300 last year. Like, it's still in there. And he's been playing really well in the month of September. So has Juan Soto. Manny Machado's been hitting pretty well in September. And the guy's hurt. The guy needs surgery. I want to give that big four another shot in 2024. I don't want to, if I'm Peter Seidler, if I'm AJ Preller, assuming that AJ Preller is going to continue running things, I don't want to sit there, lying there in bed in 2025 after you traded Soto and be like, what if we had him? What if they make the postseason and they fall 1 game short of the goal? What if we had Juan Soto? Or they fall a series short? What if we had Juan Soto in this big situation and instead we have player X? I don't want that what if. I want to have no regrets. And I think the Padres, at least the way Peter Seidler's mind works, I think AJ Preller and the way they go right now, which is all in, I think they'd rather do this and keep Juan Soto, not have any regrets. At least they tried Juan Soto for all 3 years instead of giving up on it. At least to start the year, have Juan Soto on the team. Cash in. you have to cash in on this opportunity that you have to have Juan Soto on your baseball team. Because 2025 with Juan Soto is not guaranteed. But 2024 with Juan Soto on your baseball team can be guaranteed if you don't deal him. Right? Passan mentioned the Red Sox and the Mets. As for the Red Sox, I mean, yeah, I'd be interested in if the Padres like make the decision, we're trading Juan Soto. Yeah, I'd be interested in some of the Red Sox talent that they have. Marcelo Meyer, I know he's a shortstop, infielder. How many more infielders do the Padres need? But they have some talent in that farm system. Chaim Bloom took that farm system from being 30th to like 5th, I think, according to Baseball America. So they have talent in that farm system. Now, the New York Mets, I don't really know what they have to deal the Padres. I can look at their top prospects here, according to MLB.com. Would it be Acuna? Would the Padres ask for Acuna? Probably. Acuna's brother, Luis Angel Acuna. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Drew Gilbert, Jet Williams, Ronnie Mauricio. There's some talent there at the top of that farm system. Acuna, I think the Padres would ask for. Now, would the Mets give that up for Juan Soto? Maybe they would, because if you're the Mets, I think the Mets would be more inclined to acquire Juan Soto because they're a team that would go spend $500 million on Juan Soto. Would the Boston Red Sox do that? They didn't even do that for Mookie Betts, their own guy. They didn't even want to give him anywhere close to what the Dodgers gave Mookie Betts, which was $365 million. So the Red Sox are going to do that for Juan Soto? I mean, that would be pretty rude to Chaim Bloom, wouldn't it? Like you handcuff him, you don't allow him to go extend Mookie Betts, but right when you fire him, you're going to allow the new guy that you hire to go give Juan Soto $500 million? Does that make a whole lot of sense? That's not really fair to Chaim Bloom, right? And maybe the Red Sox probably don't care. Like you can't go change the past. But yeah, I think the Mets, the Red Sox might have a better package, but the Mets, I think they would go harder than the Red Sox. Like the Red Sox would probably have a limit. Maybe Steve Cohen wouldn't have a limit and be like, I'm getting Juan Soto and I'm going to give him as much money as he wants, where he can't say no to this. Like, you want 500? Okay, I'll give you 500. Because let's say he's like, someone else is going to go get Ohtani. We're not getting Ohtani. Or he waits till Ohtani signs and then he goes all in on Soto. I don't think the Padres will trade Juan Soto. That's where I'm at right now with this. I don't think that Peter Seidler wants to give up on Juan Soto before his contract's up. I don't think AJ Preller wants to do that either. I think that they want to go all in for 2024 again. Now, payroll, again, you can go all in by making the right decisions and lowering the payroll. Hopefully people understand that. But I think they're going to go all in with this core, this big four that they have, give it another shot and see what happens. And at least at the start of the year, you have Juan Soto, you see what happens. And if things aren't working out, All-Star break, you can start exploring trades. Before the deadline, you can deal them. And you get something back for them. Hopefully the Padres will learn their lesson. If things are not going right in 2024, get Juan Soto off the team, and so you can get something back for him instead of wasting the rest of his season going into free agency where he's probably not going to come back. Josh Hader, Blake Snell, obviously, the Padres decided to keep them, and look at what has happened. Padres, they're going to get a Cy Young Award winner, but then Snell's going to go sign somewhere else, and Josh Hader, I mean, they've got a guy that clearly doesn't want to be really pitching for the Padres right now. That's what it seems like to me. At least he doesn't want to go all out for the team, and he hasn't been willing to go all out for the team at all this season. And they had to beg him to go all out for the team last year, in the postseason. So, yeah. Hopefully they learn their lesson. If they're in the same spot as next year as they were this year, right? Hopefully if they're in that same spot, they're learning their lesson. But yeah, I don't, Red Sox, Mets, I'm sure there's some other teams. Maybe the Yankees would show some interest. Giants maybe would show some interest, even though that's in division. What other teams would realistically? I mean, the Braves, they're good. They don't need to. would the Phillies show interest? Would someone like the Cubs show interest? Would someone, I'm just thinking of some other teams. Anyone else in the AL East? I mean, Yankees, Red Sox, that's probably that right there. Mets, Phillies. Yeah, those are the teams off the top of my head right now that maybe would show interest. A lot more teams than that would show interest because it's Juan Soto, but teams like maybe being seriously interested, because I'm looking at it from like, okay, this team better be interested in signing this guy when he's a free agent, or when they trade for him, offer him a huge extension, or else why are you trading for 1 year of Juan Soto, you know? But again, I don't see Juan Soto being traded. Again, the cash in thing that Jeff Passan talks about, like you have to cash in on this opportunity to go get young talent, some great young talent for Juan Soto. I view it the other way. Like you have to cash in, but cash in on having Juan Soto on your baseball team in 2024. There's so many teams that would love to have Juan Soto on their baseball team. I think the Padres got to give it a shot. Just think about this. Juan Soto this season. And again, I would label this as a little bit of a disappointing season for Juan Soto. 6th in offensive WAR. This was entering today's action. Padres aren't playing today, but this was entering today. You go on Baseball Reference, you look up these stats. Juan Soto, 6th in offensive WAR in all of baseball, 5th in on-base percentage, 8th in OPS, 1st in games played, 4th in runs driven in, 1st in walks, 6th in runs created, 6th in adjusted batting runs. I don't really know what the heck that means, but it sounds good. So top 8 in all of those categories. And this is with him having a OPS of under 760 in 2 months of this season. In the first month, and then I believe in August, he had an OPS under 760. And that's a bad OPS for Juan Soto, obviously. There's some guys where, like, if the OPS is what Soto's was in August, okay, decent. But for Juan Soto, that's a bad month. He started off the season terribly. He was hitting like 200 to start off the season. So that's all of those numbers, top 10 in baseball in all of those categories. That's him in what's probably a little bit of a disappointing season for Juan Soto. Imagine next year going into a walk year. What, you think he's going to crap the bed next year? I don't think so. And I'm counting on the other guys in this Big Four having better seasons than they had in 2023, which I don't think is asking for too much. So I want to take that chance. Again, I probably said this 100 times already tonight. I'd take that chance. I want to take that chance to start next season than not even see that, not even, have the opportunity to see what the Big Four and the rest of this Padres team can do in 2024, coming off of 2023, coming off a long off season where they're probably, I would hope, be motivated by being embarrassed in 2023. And the September run, I think that we shouldn't put too much stock into it, but they are playing really good baseball right now. So I think some fans would think, oh, well, what if they put this together next year like this? They're going to be pretty unstoppable. That's a postseason team right there. And that's a team I don't want to play in the postseason. If I'm another team that has the Padres on their schedule, I wouldn't want to play that offense. So I want to give it a shot. That's where I'm at on this. All right. Before I get to a quick break about Underdog Fantasy, just reminder, check out Gaglione Bros, famous cheesesteaks and garlic fries. They're available at Snapdragon Stadium. They're available at Petco Park. And they're also, obviously, they have a main location on Friars Road, so you can click that link in the description for their website. And I believe you go to their website, there's the phone number there if you have any questions. There's the address, the menu. Great cheesesteaks, best cheesesteaks in San Diego. Great garlic fries, cheesesteak fries. So I definitely recommend you check them out. All right, quick break here. Underdog Fantasy, by the way, I believe up to $500. Free deposit match up to $100, or not 100, $500. It usually is 100, but for a limited time, Underdog Fantasy, they contacted me recently and said it's up to $500 for a limited time. So click that link in the description for Underdog Fantasy. Here is more on them. I want to tell you about the best and easiest way to play fantasy sports. It's Underdog Fantasy. They have great pick'em games and best ball tournaments. In pickup games, just pick higher or lower on 2 to 5 players' stats, and you can win up to 20 times your money in a single night. You can go cross-team, cross-league, and even cross-sport. Best ball revolves around the draft, which is what every fan loves the most about fantasy, and it eliminates the hassle of having to manage your roster all season long, resulting in a fun and easy fantasy product. How does it work exactly? You enter a contest where you participate in a snake draft against other users. That lineup that you drafted competes against every other draft in the entire contest. The better the combined performance of your team, the more money you win. After your lineup is all played, Underdog will take the best performing players and automatically set them as your starting lineup. That's it. No waivers, no trades, no worrying about who to start or sit. After you complete your draft, your part is done. Underdog Fantasy offers best ball in a variety of ways, including daily contests, weekly contests, playoff contests, and season-long contests. You can either enter into these and compete against thousands of other entrants for huge prizes, or, if you'd like, you can enter into a private draft with friends and family to compete for a smaller prize pool. Underdog keeps it super simple with their easy-to-use website and mobile apps. Sign up now by clicking the link in the description or by using the promo code TALKINGFRIARS, and you'll double your first deposit up to $100 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit of $10 or more. So if you deposit $100, you get $100 free. If you deposit $10, you get $10 free. All right, we got a playoff update, or at least Padres. Are they staying alive or not? The Mets did have a 1-0 lead at one point in this game. The Marlins, they have tacked on 2 runs in the ninth, so they're up 2-1 right now. I believe top of the ninth, 2-1 lead for the Marlins. If the Marlins win one more game this season, the Padres are eliminated. If the Cubs win one more game this season, the Padres are eliminated. If the Reds win their series, and even if the Cubs and Marlins lose out, I believe the Padres will be eliminated as well. And if the Padres lose tomorrow, if they're still alive, they're eliminated. If they lose in any of the rest of their games, they're eliminated. So there's a lot of things that have to go right for this Padres team. For anyone that believes you're going to be let down, this Padres team, they're not going to make the postseason. But it is weird how they are continuing to stay alive. I mean, we're down going into the last series of the regular season, and the Padres are still alive. If you would have came to me a few weeks ago, and said, "Hey, you think the Padres are going to be alive going into the last weekend of the regular season, the last series of the regular season, or at least on the off day going into that Chicago series," I would have looked at you like you had like 6 heads. I would not have believed that the Padres would still be alive. But this, and I was texting with a friend the other, I think it was today maybe, about this. Like this actually, you might think like, oh, Padres are playing really good baseball right now and it's close. But this just shows how bad the Padres have been this season. They've won 11 of their last 13 games. And they still need to win out. They need the Cubs to lose out. They need the Marlins to lose out. And they need the Reds to only win at least. They need the Reds to win one more game, I think. They can only win one more game in the last 3 games of the season for them. There's still so many things that have to happen. And the Padres have won 11 of 13. They've been amazing in this 13-game stretch. And they still have this much stuff that has to go right for them. That just shows how bad they were this season. So I don't want people to think about this year and it's like, well, maybe let's say they sweep the White Sox or whatever, and they finish the season over 500. I don't want people to look back on this season and be like, well, they had a winning record, AJ Preller winning record. Well, let's look at they were playing in September and look how much stuff they needed to go right to even be in this spot, to be just over 500 to finish the season. They had to win almost every single game the rest of the year to finish just above 500. You know, they were beating the A's and the Rockies, you know, like congratulations, you know. So yeah, this season has just been a massive disappointment. I did want to hit on this one thing about Jeff Passan, what he was saying on Baseball is Dead here. Again, I think he said this yesterday. It wasn't today, but this is when I heard it today. So this is why I'm talking about it today. he's talking about how the Padres, they're stuck with these big contracts, Tatis and Manny and Bogarts. And that's part of why they need to trade Soto, because they need to get some young guys in here, controllable, really good talent, young guys, because you can't just be spending a ton of money on all of these guys, and then you're not going to have any flexibility moving forward, right? So you got to cash in on this opportunity. If the Padres decide to go that route, they could save themselves more money, right? So you don't pay for Juan Soto $30 million for this year, for next year, excuse me, for 2024. They could maybe not focus on the return and be like, well, we're probably not going to get a huge return anyway because it's 1 year of Soto. It's not 3 like the Padres got for Soto or for all the big prospects that they gave to the Washington Nationals. They might sit there and be like, well, it's only 1 year, so let's not focus on the return we get back. Let's try to get a top 10 prospect back. Top 5, top 3 prospect in someone's system. Let's aim for Acuna's brother with the Mets if, let's say, they engage with the Mets. But let's try to get out from this Matt Carpenter contract. Let's try to get out from this Jake Cronenworth contract. Now, I think that would be a terrible look on the Padres, is they're trying to get out of a Jake Cronenworth contract when his contract hasn't even started yet. Because remember, his contract starts next season. This 7-year deal, it starts next season. It didn't start this season. That deal was agreed upon when the season had already started. Where Darvish's contract, I believe, started this year. Musgrove started this year. Suarez this year. You get the point. Cronenworth, no, it starts next year. So for the front office to already want to get out of the Cronenworth contract, that would be a really bad look. And that would be like, wow, that's them admitting we made a terrible decision to even give Cronenworth that contract. But maybe that's, if Soto is dangled out there, I would not be surprised to see Matt Carpenter be involved in that to try to save more money there and not have to roster Matt Carpenter, not have to pay Matt Carpenter's contract, or not have to have Jake Cronenworth. And what they could do there is reallocate that money to someone like Ha-Seong Kim if they'd rather have Ha-Seong Kim over Jake Cronenworth. You don't have to pay for Soto. That frees you up some money if you want to bring Blake Snell back. I would not recommend that. Or you save the money for another big free agent coming up. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. If the Padres decide to go in that direction, it would make sense for Cronenworth, Carpenter to be included in those discussions. And maybe the Padres don't focus as much on, hey, we need to get this return. Because there was that talk with like the Boston Red Sox, for example. Chaim Bloom, I think he had a Chris Sale deal on the table, but he was focused on the return. Like he wanted a better return instead of just focusing on, hey, looking at the positive of we can get out of this contract. The Padres, they might be like, we want a top prospect back, but we're not going to ask for 3 top prospects. We're going to ask for a top prospect or a top prospect and another top 20 prospect or something. But you're going to have to, if you want Juan Soto for a year and you have the negotiation rights to Juan Soto for that season, therefore, you're going to have to take on Jake Cronenworth's contract. Or you're going to have to take on Matt Carpenter's contract. Or maybe you have to take on Matt Carpenter, maybe not Cronenworth, but you take on Matt Carpenter and you have to take on Eric Hosmer's dead money for someone like the Mets. And the Mets, Steve Cohen, obviously, has a ton of money. So maybe that's what the Padres do, and that gives them some more flexibility. I'm just throwing things against the wall, obviously, but maybe that's something that happens. All right, Hector Gomez. So we know Jeff Passan, he gave his thoughts here. Baseball is dead. Thinks the Padres will trade Juan Soto. He thinks the Padres have to trade Juan Soto. He thinks that they have to cash in on this opportunity. Like I said earlier, I think that they have to cash in, but in a different way. I disagree with Jeff there. Hector Gomez, then, he tweeted out earlier on, what's today? Thursday? He tweeted out that actually the Padres are in a better spot with Juan Soto in these discussions. Says the Padres will make Juan Soto a very good extension offer. There's a very good chance for him to stay with them, is what he said. I believe he also said like Juan Soto likes his situation with the Padres. So he uses very good in a couple of spots there. Again, Padres will make Juan Soto a very good extension offer. There's a very good chance for him to stay with them. And when I look at that, it's like I have a lot of question marks, and I have a lot of takeaways just from those couple sentences there. Padres will make Juan Soto a very good extension offer. Very good can be interpreted different ways. Like for me, very good could be one thing, and very good could mean something else to you that are watching this, right? For the Padres, a very good extension offer could be 460. But for Juan Soto and Scott Boras, very good is 500. And that's $40 million difference. Like that's not close. So there's no extension being done there. Like you're that close to free agency. Feels like very good for Juan Soto's would be very different from very good for the Padres and what they think. And Scott Boras, I think his definition of very good is going to be different than the Padres version of very good. But there's a very good chance for him to stay with them. Does Hector Gomez mean long term or stay with the Padres for 2024? Because if it's for 2024, I'm not gonna like disagree with that. I don't think the Padres move Juan Soto in the offseason. I think they do give it a try through 2024. I don't think Peter Seidler is gonna give up on this big four and not give it a shot at least to start 2024. And AJ Preller, we know he wants to go all in. So he knows how he's a scout at heart. He knows how much he gave up in that Juan Soto deal. So he wants to have just one postseason appearance with Juan Soto, and he's fine with that. And you're not going to get back a Juan Soto return, right? The guys that you traded to the Nats, you're not getting that back if you trade Juan Soto with 1 year of control. That's not going to happen. Maybe you get a James Wood back or a Robert Hassel back, but you're not going to get Susanna, Wood, Hassel, Gore, Abrams. You're not getting all of that back. That was a ton that the Padres gave up. So I think the Padres are probably just going to be like, they're just resigned to the fact like Juan Soto's going to be here. We're going to run this thing out and we'll see what happens. Maybe we can bring him back. I don't think that's going to happen, just the way the payroll's at right now and all that. But Padres will make Juan Soto a very good extension offer. So are they just trying to bring the payroll down for 2024 and then they're fine with bringing it back up after that? But if he signs an extension, the AAV, it's not like the AAV starts after 2024. The AAV would increase, right? You would think it would increase because it takes into account the entire rest of years that Juan Soto is under contract. Like, so it will change. And even if it doesn't, you're paying $30 million probably in arbitration, last year of arbitration next year for Juan Soto. And if he turned down $440 million from the Washington Nationals, what, he's going to accept $450 when he's this close to free agency? Or is he going to accept $460? And even if he does, let's say it's $460 for 15 years, right? That's still $30 million a year. Does he want 15 years? Maybe he wants 14 years. That's almost $33 million. What if it's 13 years? That's $35 million. He's going to look around in baseball and see other players. How much did Aaron Judge get per year in his contract from the New York Yankees, right? You go to Aaron Judge's contract, 9 years, $360 million. So he got $40 million per year in that contract, 360 over 9 years. You think Juan Soto's going to want to settle for significantly less than what Aaron Judge got? No, he's probably going to ask for $40 million per year, at least to start things. You think he's going to sign for 10 for 400? I mean, he rejected 440 from a place that he was very comfortable with. And he's already like admitted that it was really tough during that trade or when he was traded because he loved being with the Nationals. And it was a tough transition. So he probably wanted to stay with the Washington Nationals, but he made that business decision. You think he's going to take less for the Padres? I just don't see that when you're that close to free agency. So again, what I think the big question here after this Hector Gomez report comes out or this tweet, what is very good for Juan Soto? What is very good for Scott Boras? What is very good, the definition of very good in terms of an offer to Juan Soto in the Padres view? Like, what does Peter Seidler think very good is? What does Juan Soto think very good is? If those are two very different things, then who cares if the Padres think they're making a very good extension offer, because it takes two sides to tango. So I don't think that an extension is coming. I mean, and another question that came from me reading this was like, well, there's going to be a meeting after the season between Preller, Melvin, Grupner, other people with the Padres, part of Seidler's ownership, right? Equity group. We don't even know if AJ Preller is going to stay. We don't know if Bob Melvin's going to stay. We don't know who's going to be running this team officially in 2024 in this offseason. So how does Hector Gomez, how do people know if the Padres are going to make a very good extension offer to Juan Soto if we don't even know who's running the baseball team? Because I don't think Preller's going to be fired, but he could be gone. And what if another GM comes in and it's like, no, I'm not on board giving Juan Soto this much money. We need more flexibility. I'll let Juan Soto walk. And if the price tag comes down, maybe we can engage in that. But for what he wants, not interested in that. Then is Peter Seidler still going to go? He did that, it seems like, with Manny and just went and gave him the big contract, $350 million. But is he going to go past the new guy that he hires, if Preller goes, to give Juan Soto what that person that he hired doesn't think is smart for the organization, you know? So there's things to figure out. That's my point. There's things to figure out here with this Padres team before even getting to Juan Soto and a potential contract extension. One, I don't think a contract extension is happening because of how close Juan Soto is to free agency and all the things that need to happen with this Padres organization. Who's the manager? Who's the GM? Who's the president of baseball operations? Peter Seidler's health, right? And just making a roster for 2024. We know Juan Soto is going to be on this Padres roster in 2024. So or at least he is contractually on the roster for 2024. He could be dealt, but again, I don't think that's going to happen. Juan Soto's here for 2024. There's certain guys that are here, but there's Blake Snell, Josh Hader. How are you going to replace those guys? Seth Lugo, Michael Wacha, Nick Martinez, G-Man Choi, Garrett Cooper, Rich Hill, Tim Hill, arbitration, and are they going to pay him $3 million? Like little things that maybe not all Padres fans care about, but there's so many things, so many questions about this Padres team this offseason before you even get to Juan Soto. Because why should you be getting to Juan Soto when you don't even know like who's running the team? You don't know all the players that are going to be on the roster. Like the Juan Soto stuff should come after you build the 2024 roster, because the Padres should be that should be their number one priority, is trying to win in 2024. You already got Tatis, Bogarts, and Manny locked down long term. If they don't have Soto locked down long term, yeah, that might suck losing him, because Juan Soto is really talented, and I think he can help this baseball team win games, especially at the plate offensively. But you're still going to have talent on this team without Juan Soto. You have this opportunity with Juan Soto guaranteed on the team. Go figure out the rest of the roster before you get to Juan Soto. So this Hector Gomez report, Padres will make Juan Soto a very good extension offer. Maybe they will, but that feels like it's way down the road. That's not going to happen anytime soon, because there's a lot of stuff that needs to be decided, in this Padres organization here, front office, roster construction, a lot of things have to be decided before they should even be getting to Juan Soto, in my opinion. All right. Anything else I wanted to get to here? I don't think so. This is really a Juan Soto night, or a Juan Soto show. Obviously, it's an off day. The Padres, they don't play till tomorrow. Padres, White Sox. Dylan Cease on the mound for the White Sox tomorrow. We'll see if that even matters, because the Marlins, it still says here, I'm looking on MLB right now. I'll try to pull this game up on MLB TV. I don't know what's happening here, but it still says Marlins are up 2-1 in the top of the ninth. Is there like a weather delay with this Mets game? Mets, Marlins. We want the Mets to win. Yeah, weather delay. Okay. They're in a weather delay. Cubs, Braves. I believe that has gone final. Has it gone final? Yes, Braves won. So for Padres fans that are still believing in this, they want things to happen. The Cubs fans, or excuse me, not the Cubs fans. Well, Cubs fans are pissed off, yeah, because their team is crumbling right now. But the Cubs have lost, so that's what the Padres needed. If the Cubs would have won, if they win one more game, the Padres are done. If the Marlins win a game, the Padres are done. So the Padres have to win out. Reds can only win one more game, I believe, in their last series. Like, there's still a lot of stuff that has to happen. Marlins right now have a lead over the Mets, so that's not good news for Padres fans. But we'll see what happens there. All right. Time to get to the chat. Thank you all for being here on this off night. Devin here says, we have to trade Soto. I don't think so. If you want to make sure I get to your comment or your question, by the way, you can use that super chat button. Supports the channel. Makes it very easy for me to see your comment or your question. So I appreciate anyone that does that. We have to trade Soto. I don't think so. I agree with that. Hector Gomez just reported Soto and the Padres are in good spirits and an extension is likely coming soon. I don't know if this is a good thing or not to trust Hector Gomez. I don't want to disrespect Hector Gomez and be like, don't trust Hector Gomez. I trust Jeff Passan over Hector Gomez. And Jeff Passan, he's not reporting it, but speculation, he thinks the Padres aren't going to sign Juan Soto to an extension. I mean, he's going as far as thinking that the Padres will be trading Juan Soto. Hector Gomez, I'm trying to find him here. He just tweeted this, is what you're saying? About Juan Soto? I don't see that. Maybe you're just referring to the same thing that I was referring to earlier here in the show? Because I don't see that. About an extension likely coming soon. All I saw from Hector Gomez was the Padres will make Juan Soto a very good extension offer. And there's a very good chance for him to stay with them. That's what he's saying. That's all I've seen. Mark says, I'll get hate for this, but I'm all for Soto being traded, especially if the Yankees will offer top prospects for him. Padres need to stay away from more long-term contracts. Yeah, but it's also Juan Soto. This isn't Jake Cronenworth that they're extending. And I love Jake Cronenworth, but obviously Juan Soto is better than Jake Cronenworth, right? It's Juan Soto that they're extending. I think that's a little bit different. Now, will the Padres be able to afford that? I don't know. I don't know if they will. If they want to have flexibility long-term, I don't know if they will be able to give Juan Soto, let's say, $500 million, right? So if they can't do that, I still think that you want to give it a shot in 2024. But if they can't do that, then yeah, it makes sense to explore it. It definitely makes sense to explore a Juan Soto deal. And if the Yankees, I know Jason Dominguez is hurt, but if the Yankees are going to be willing to give up Jason Dominguez, if they're willing to give up, who is someone else that's, because they're like Anthony Volpe, Oswald Peraza, those guys are middle infielders. But I'm going to look up their top prospects. Like Austin Wells, I don't think they're willing to give up. If they're willing to give up Spencer Jones, who's out of Vanderbilt, he's in Double-A right now. Their number one prospect. Are they willing to give up Spencer Jones or Jason Dominguez, someone like that? Then I think that definitely will make AJ Preller interested in exploring this Juan Soto potential deal. Because those guys obviously are going to be on cheap contracts. Those are talented young players that can replace Juan Soto in the lineup. Not going to have the same production as Juan Soto, but you can bring in another vet to be the stopgap. I think that's appealing with the Yankees. I still would rather have Juan Soto on my team for 2024 and just give it a go. Jesse says, I like Soto, so I want to see him stay a Padre, but not sure it's the best play long-term for this team in its entirety. I understand that thought. Devin says, Yankees are not a good trade partner. They don't have a decent top 10 or even top 20 prospect in their system. Maybe the Mets would work, but I don't think he'll get traded. As for the last part, I don't think he's going to get traded either, unless it's before the deadline and it's just not working out for the Padres next year. But offseason, I don't think he's going to get dealt. But Yankees are not a good trade partner. I mean, you don't want Jason Dominguez. You don't want Spencer Jones. I'd be interested in those guys. I'd still have to think about it. But like if the Padres, or let's say if the Yankees are willing to take on some Eric Hosmer dead money, if they're willing to take on Matt Carpenter, and Yankees fans love him, if they're willing to do that and they'll give you someone like Spencer, they'll give you Jason Dominguez or Spencer Jones or one of them and someone else as well. I think that would be appealing to some people in the Padres front office. I'd still, I mean, it's Juan Soto. Like, I want to have Juan Soto on this team in 2024. But I disagree with the Yankees don't have a decent top 10 or even top 20 prospect in their system. I disagree with that. Jason Dominguez is a good player. Ask Yankees fans. TN says, who would have thought the Padres would have only had Soto for a season and a half? LOL, gave up Wood and so many other players. Well, yes, if they trade him, then that's what's going to happen. But I don't think they're trading him. So I think they will have him. My gut tells me they will have him through the rest of his contract here. And they're just going to give it a go. And we'll see what happens. Tupac 13 says we're going to regret it if we trade. Can I speak properly? Holy cow! We're going to regret it if we trade Soto. Maybe. I feel like Peter Seidler would regret it if the Padres like come up short next year. Man, what if we had Juan Soto on this team? What would have happened? And I don't think he wants to have those regrets. I think he wants to be like, hey, at least we tried. It didn't work. I can't control how Juan Soto plays. I can't control how the other stars play, but at least we tried. We went down swinging in this Juan Soto Padres era. Mark says everything will be determined by the trade deadline and where the Padres are next year. Soto could be traded during the offseason or at the deadline in 2024. Yeah, so, well, yeah, you're saying everything will be determined by the trade deadline and where the Padres are next year. So if they're going to be determining Soto's future by the deadline next year, then they're not trading Soto in the offseason, right? They would keep Soto to give it a shot, and then you evaluate before the deadline, see where the Padres are at. If they're in a good spot, you keep Soto and you go for it. Continuing to go through the chat here. Yes, anyone that's still interested, Miami and Chicago need to lose out. Padres need to win out. And the Reds, I believe, can only go 1-2 in their last 3 games. And the Padres make it. 1-2 or worse for the Reds. So a lot has to go right for the Padres. And a lot has to go wrong for those other teams. That's for sure. This is a possibility. Yeah, TN says Soto will be a DH in 3 years. That is a possibility. But Soto, he plays every day. He has played every game. That's valuable. He's having a disappointing season, in my opinion. A little bit disappointing for Soto's standards and expectations. And he's still a top 10 player in baseball. Top 10 offensive player in baseball. In what is a little bit of a down year for Soto. And it seems like he's going to continue working to try to get better in the outfield. I'm not saying he's going to turn into Fernando Tatis Jr. out there, but I think I could see him getting a little bit better every year in the outfield. And he's definitely going to be motivated because he's in a walk year in 2024. All right, continuing to go through the chat. How would they lower their payroll to $200 million without trading Juan Soto? Good question. I went over this, I think, a couple shows ago. I'll go back in my notes here to go through that. So if they keep Juan Soto and Snell's gone, Hader's gone, Waka's gone, Garcia, Rich Hill, G-Man Choi, Gary Sanchez, Garrett Cooper, Drew Pomerantz, Tim Hill, Nelson Cruz, and Adam Engel, all that money's off the books for 2024. They would have saved $63 million, I think. If my math adds up, about $63 million, a little bit over that. That would put them at $190 million for next year, I believe, at payroll commitments for next year. Spot Track has a different number. They say 171.8 is the adjusted salary for 2024 right now. So our math is disagreeing, but let's just go with the higher total, 190 about. So that's how they would get it. Without Juan Soto or without trading Soto, all of those guys off the team and no other money is added, they would be under 200. But you obviously have to replace those guys, and you're not going to replace those guys only with your minor league talent because it's not that great in El Paso. And your top prospects that are in AA, those guys are a couple years away, probably, right? Or they're not going to be there till second half of next year, maybe. I don't think that some of those guys are going to be on the roster opening day 2024. So they're going to have to add back. So I don't, and I've said this before. I said this on the show a couple days ago, I think, when I was going through this payroll. I don't think they're going to get under 200. I don't think they're going to get to 200. I think they're going to be under 233, which is the luxury, 237 actually, I think is the luxury tax threshold for 24. I think they'll get under that, and maybe they get close to 200, but their payroll right now is around 253, I think. So that's a big drop. And if you're trying to win next year, you're going to want to bring in guys that have some type of proven track record, right? Maybe not like 42-year-olds like Nelson Cruz, but you're going to want to bring in someone, and you probably are going to want to try to bring back Lugo or Waka, one of those guys. And first base, DH, what's going to happen there? Depth, what's going to happen? Gary Sanchez, there's question marks, you know? So bullpen, rest of the rotation, filling that out. So, yeah, trading Soto, obviously that's probably $30 million next year. That will make it much easier to get to under $200 million or whatever their goal is. But let's remember, and this isn't to disrespect Kevin Acee because he has been right on things, but he's also been wrong on things. And he said the Padres had like $25 million to spend in the offseason, and they went and signed Xander Bogaerts and Seth Lugo and Michael Wacha, and they made all these moves, right? So he could be wrong on this, or he could be correct. He could have been correct at that time with that report that he had. And Peter Seidler's mind changed. AJ Preller's mind changed. And Peter Seidler allowed AJ to do whatever he wanted to do, whatever he thought was best, because they were coming off of the NLCS and AJ's excellence and all that, right? So things can change. People's minds and plans can change. Yes, trading Soto would make it easier, but should the Padres care more about the payroll or should they care more about winning? They should care more about winning next year, especially when you have Juan Soto guaranteed to be on your roster next year. And when are you going to have another Juan Soto on your roster with the collection of this other talent on this team? When is that going to happen again in this franchise's history? You don't know when that's going to happen again. So I want to take that shot. I want to take that second shot or the third shot with Juan Soto, technically, right? Mike says, if Soto is a guarantee to win the World Series, why didn't we win the last two? Here come the excuses. I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying he's a really good baseball player, a really good offensive player, especially. And I think he can help this Padres team win the World Series, just like he helped the Washington Nationals win the 2019 World Series. That's what I'm saying. It's not a guarantee. It's Shohei Ohtani is the best player on the planet. It's not a guarantee. Nothing's a guarantee. You play the odds, you play the probability, you believe in certain talented players, and you bring those players together, and it might not work, just like it didn't work this year, but it could work next year. Just because it didn't work this year doesn't mean that it's not going to work next year, you know? So we'll see. Nothing's a guarantee. If the Braves went out, like best team in baseball, right, or the Dodgers, they go sign Shohei Ohtani, they could end up not making the World Series next year. Or I think they'd make the postseason because it's the Dodgers. Like, they're not a dysfunctional organization. But they could flop and lose in the NLDS. They could lose in the NLCS, and it would be a failure because you have Shohei Ohtani and Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman and all that. There's no guarantee, right? I mean, the Angels had Trout and Ohtani, and they never made the postseason together. Nothing's a guarantee. You just play the probability, and you trust in certain really talented players. Yeah, so is that game still in a rain delay? Mets, Marlins. I think it is. The Braves have just clinched best record in Major League Baseball with a win against the Cubs. They're 103-56 this year. Holy cow. Ronald Acuna Jr.'s 40 home runs, 70 stolen bases. This guy's ridiculous. All right, continuing to go through the chat here. JD's Third says, we need to stop calling them the Big Four. It demeans the rest of the roster. Everyone is important. No other teams talk of their players this way. It's part of the culture problem. Okay, maybe. That's fair. But I think Bob Melvin's mentioned the Big Four. I think there's a lot of people in the media. I'm not talking about me. I'm just a Padre fan coming on here and talking about the Padres. But like people that write about the team have labeled them as the Big Four. People were labeling them the Big Four at FanFest. Maybe they themselves have talked about them being the Big Four. I forget if they did in spring training or something. But I mean, at FanFest, they had those four players up on the stage. So like the Padres themselves were buying into it being the Big Four. But yeah, I definitely understand your viewpoint there about like, don't call them the Big Four. Everyone is important. Everyone is important. No doubt about that. But we know who the big guys are and who the Padres are leaning on the most in this offense. And it's those four guys. That's just the bottom line. That's just what it is. And going into the season with the Dodgers, if you stacked up the Padres' Big Four, the Dodgers, you had no one saying Big Four because it's not like they had two Mookie Betts and two Freddie Freemans there alongside, right? Who was the Big Four for the Dodgers? It was Betts, Freeman, and who else? Trey Turner's not on the team. Will Smith? Would you put Max Muncy as the fourth guy in that Big Four on offense? JD Martinez, who just came there, and I think he's on a 1-year deal as the DH. And he was just looking for like a bounce back year, I believe. Like it was way easier for the Padres than other teams in baseball to label their best four players as the Big Four. Right? Everyone in the media, everyone was labeling it the Big Four. And yeah, maybe that is part of the culture problem. And we know it's been reported that some of those guys, they go off and do their own things and they have preferences of where they want to hit in the lineup. And that pisses me off a little bit, looking back on it. Like, dude, you got your money already, Xander. I love you, but you already got your money. Why are you worrying about where you hit in the lineup? Go hit where the manager thinks it's best. It's not like you have to go hit somewhere in the lineup where you're most comfortable so you can get the best numbers and go get the money. You already got the money. Go hit wherever the heck he tells you to hit. Right? So, like, just be an ultimate team player. And so, yeah, that is, voice crack there. That is part of the issue. Yeah. But that's not going to stop people from calling it the Big Four because those guys have the most on their shoulders. I know it's not the NBA, but you go around to every team in baseball and you look at guys in the lineup, you go down the lineup and you can point to players that you have the expectations for. And you go to this Padres lineup entering this season, who did you have the expectations for? You had it for Manny, Soto, Bogarts, and who am I missing? Tatis. You had maybe, I'm not putting Cronenworth obviously in the Big Four, obviously. He's not on that level, but there were expectations. And then there's the tier below that with guys like Jake Cronenworth and maybe Ha-Seong Kim. Not this level that he performed. I don't think people were expecting that, but there were expectations. You go to the Yankees, right? Expectations on who? Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, Anthony Rizzo, DJ LeMahieu, right? Like those, you have expectations on those guys. You go to the New York Mets, Francisco Lindor, Starling Marte, Pete Alonso, right? Like there were expectations on those guys. That's just how it is. So yeah, everyone's important, but there's a lot of teams in baseball that you look at. It's like, well, heavy is the head that wears the crown. That's just what it is. So they're not going to be stopped. People aren't going to stop calling them the Big Four. I don't see that happening. Mike says, try to sign Soto in the offseason at a decent price. If the answer is no, trade his butt and move on. He's not the only player out there that could help us, and the Padres need more than one anyway. That's true. Like the $30 million, you can spread that out with other guys. You can bring back someone for the rotation, maybe bring in a vet in the outfield that's making less money. It allows you more flexibility, right? But are those guys together going to be more impactful than Juan Soto in a walk year as one of the best offensive players in baseball and a guy that's going to get MVP votes next season, right? Like they got to weigh that. I'm glad I don't have to make that decision. It's tough. I think Peter Seidler probably is sitting there saying, it's not that tough. You know, Juan Soto's a Padre in 2024. We're going for it again. I'm not going to trade. I'm not going to give up on this team and make our, deflate fans' hopes because we trade Juan Soto before the season even starts. We get one postseason appearance. We traded all these pieces to not see it all the way through with Juan Soto. I don't think he's going to do that. But yeah, try sign Soto in the offseason, but a decent price, that's not going to get it done. So the answer is going to be no. If they offer a decent price, the answer is going to be no. And so Mike thinks that then they should trade him. I'm giving it a chance. I disagree with that. Diego says things the Padres should do in the offseason: extend Waka and Lugo or Snell, go after one cheap starter arm, extend Kim, find 2 arms for the bullpen, trade Grish and Garcia, let Palm go, sign Belly, extend Melvin. Holy cow, that's a lot of stuff there. And you've obviously thought about that. So let me put that on the screen for some people to see that comment here that I'm referring to. So extend Waka. It wouldn't be an extension. It would be just them taking the 2 club options and giving him $16 million a year for 24 and for 25. That's what it would be. Extend Lugo or Snell. Snell, I don't think is happening. Lugo, I could see that happening. What would it have to be, though? Is it 2 years? Would they give him 3 years to lower the AAV a little bit? I could see that happening. Go after one cheap starter arm. They would probably be going after multiple because you can never have enough starting pitching. You go after one cheap starter arm, that's it. Where's the depth? You need depth in AAA. You need just depth guys that will make spring training starts in case that they perform really well and you give them a roster spot. I don't think that they should just be relying on Matt Waldron and Pedro Avila as the depth next year and hope Jay Groom can bounce back from AAA this year. It's going to have to be more than that. Extend Kim. So, what if they extend Kim? That probably means finding somewhere else for Jake Cronenworth, because I don't see them extending Kim and you still have Jake Cronenworth on the team. Find 2 arms for the bullpen. Okay. Trade Grish and Garcia. Well, Garcia's a free agent, so they're not going to have to trade him. Trade Grish. Okay. But what are you going to get back in that deal? Are you going to get starting pitching back? Okay, maybe. Sign Bellinger. Okay, well, guess what? That's going to cost you how much? Is it going to cost you $200 million? Maybe. That's a lot of money. So you'd rather sign Cody Bellinger off of one really good season with the Cubs after 3 not great seasons with the Dodgers, sign Cody Bellinger. So then you're saying, yeah, Juan Soto's not staying here long term. You want to sign Kim as well. So you're using the Soto money potentially for Bellinger and Kim and the starting pitchers that you want to come back. Waka, Lugo or Snell. Extend Melvin. That's not happening. Not with what is happening between Preller and Melvin. It feels like next year is Bob Melvin's last year. That's just what it feels like. Let Palm go. Pomerantz, he's already going to be let go. He's a free agent at the end of the year. If they bring him back, it's on a minor league contract, I would think. They're not giving that dude a major league roster spot. No way. So I see some issues there with what you think the Padres should do in the offseason there. The extending Kim thing, I just don't see happening. The sign Bellinger thing, I don't see happening. I think if they trade Grish, they'll just move Tatis to center and they'll get a short-term option for a corner with Soto in left. And then You'll figure out the rest later, I guess. And there's going to be a lot of competition for Cody Bellinger. And do the Padres want to give Cody Bellinger $200 million, which I think Bob Nightingale put in one of his notebooks that could get up to $200 million? That's what I think. Boris is Bellinger's agent, so that's what they're going to be asking for. Do the Padres want to do that to Cody? Give that to Cody Bellinger? I'm out on that. I don't want to do that. I'm good. Mike says no point in trading Soto at the trade deadline. You won't get jack for him. Yeah, but it's kind of like getting something. At least you get something back, and you will get something back for Juan Soto because he plays every day. He's one of the best hitters on the planet. Some team will give you at least a top 10 prospect for Juan Soto. They will. Even at just the deadline, they will do that. But the Padres, I could definitely see the Padres being like, we didn't give him up in the offseason. We're at the deadline. Might as well ride this out and see if they can make a magical run at the end of the season and get into the postseason, even if things aren't working out at the deadline next year. All right, continuing to go through the chat here. Yeah, let me look up an update here on this Miami game. Is it still in a rain delay? I have not gotten any update there yet. Yeah, it still says delayed here on the MLB app. Yuli Gurriel had a go-ahead RBI single, I believe, that gave the Marlins that lead. Again, if the Marlins hold on against the Mets, Padres season is officially done. They are officially eliminated. I thought they were eliminated, not officially, obviously, but mathematically, but unofficially eliminated like a month ago. And again, I just go back to they won 11 of 13, and they still need so many things to go right for them in this last weekend just to make the postseason, to barely make the postseason. That's how bad that they've been this year. That's terrible. Mike says more important to sign Kim and acquire a lot more pitching than it is to sign Soto. But I go back to, okay, you want Kim. What's Jake Cronenworth's future? Are you going to attach him to a Juan Soto deal? Is that what is going to happen here? Is that what you want then if you want to sign Kim and acquire more pitching? You acquire the pitching in a Soto deal. You attach Cronenworth to that deal with Soto. You attach Carpenter. I think that would be fit more for the Mets to make that move. But then the Mets, they're not trying to win next year. At least that's what Billy Epler told Scherzer and Verlander. So they might be like, screw giving up prospects and stuff. Screw taking on, bad money from the Padres. We'll just go sign Soto in free agency, and you don't have to give up those top prospects. Devin asks, am I going to talk about the Hector Neris, Julio Rodriguez scuffle? No, because that's not anything. That has nothing to do with the Padres. So, no, I was not planning on that. It was a cool moment tonight. I'm not talking about that. That was not a cool moment. But tonight, Bryce Harper gets ejected. Angel Hernandez is just blind, like the worst check call swing ever. Worse than Profar in the postseason last year. Says Bryce swings. He gets ejected, throws his helmet into the crowd. A 10-year-old, I think, ends up getting it. Bryce has security go get the helmet, signs it for the kid, and the kid gets on the broadcast and all that. Still doesn't like Angel Hernandez. That was pretty funny. That was a cool moment. And Bryce Harper, that's a guy that I would love to be on the Padres. I would love to have him on the Padres. I mean, I would have been over the moon if the Padres would have got Bryce Harper. And this isn't looking back in hindsight. This is just, I would have been over the moon if they would have gotten Harper and not Machado in 2019, before the 2019 season. This isn't disrespect towards Manny. I was ecstatic that they got Manny. But Bryce Harper, for anyone that knows me, growing up, I was a huge Bryce Harper fan. Had Bryce Harper Nationals jersey. The Padres weren't, obviously, I've been a Padres fan my whole life, but the Padres, they didn't have that guy. I mean, Will Myers, I guess, but they didn't have, he's not a superstar. They didn't have that guy that like I could latch onto and be like, that's like my hero, Bryce Harper was like that guy. Steven Strasburg, there was the San Diego connection. Harper was teammates with the Nats with Steven Strasburg. Strasburg, though, doesn't play every day. And I just latched on to Bryce Harper and got his autograph when I was I in middle school? Probably. Way back in like 2016. I remember getting a haircut like him, like huge Bryce Harper fan. And so yeah, I would have, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine how excited I would have been if they got Bryce. And looking back on it now, I would have loved to have Bryce because he would have been just like he was, like just like how he is with Philly, with San Diego. He would have been so in on San Diego, just like he is with Philly. I think he got married in San Diego. He played for the San Diego show, I think, for a couple tournaments growing up. Like, I would have loved that. But the Padres decided to give 300 to Manny instead of what did Bryce Harper get? He got 330 from the Phillies in that deal. But looking back, again, it's not disrespect towards Manny. I still love having Manny Machado on this team. Love watching him play third base. But yeah, I would have loved to have Bryce Harper on this team. Man, I would have loved to have that. Mark says, sign Kim and Profar. I would go get Bellinger. He's cheaper than Soto. Okay, but like Bellinger, that's a huge risk. He's not as good as Juan Soto, in my opinion. Sure, plays good defensively in center field, can play first base, like fills holes, but that feels like another Xander Bogaerts type signing where you're paying for someone at their peak. You're going to get this Cody Bellinger year every year for the rest of this contract, or let's say they give him 7-8 years or something, right? I don't know how many years that Bellinger is asking for, but let's say that's what it is. The Padres are going to get 2023 Cubs Cody Bellinger production out of Bellinger for the rest of his prime. I mean, look at Bellinger's numbers this season compared to his last 3 seasons with the Dodgers, right? It's not close. WAR's not everything, but you go to the WAR, Baseball Reference WAR with the Dodgers, 2020 short season, so I'm not going to include that. So we'll go last 2 seasons with the Dodgers before this year. Negative 2.9 WAR in 21 with the Dodgers. Negative 0.6 WAR, or excuse me, that's WAA. That's wins above average, my bad. Wins above replacement, 2021 with the Dodgers, negative 1.7. 1.2 last year with the Dodgers. That's not someone I want to pay $200 million to. Now, 4.3 WAR with the Cubs this year, that's more like it. But is he going to do that every year? My answer to that is no. I don't believe that he's going to do that every year. And for the rest of his prime. I don't want to give Cody Bellinger that much money. No thanks. I'd rather just go get some more short-term guys. And give Bob Melvin, assuming he stays, maybe I shouldn't assume that at this point, but hoping that he stays, give him more flexibility. I don't think the Padres need to have another big contract in here, unless it's like Shohei Ohtani, which I don't think is going to happen. Jeff Passan didn't even put the Padres in that, right, with the names that he named on Baseball's Dead yesterday. That's not happening. That's totally a fantasy. But I don't want another big contract unless it's, I guess, Juan Soto. I'm just not confident that anyone else coming in here would, live up to this contract. Because these big contracts are not going to live up to the contract. And the Padres, they keep paying guys that are like after their like peak season, and they never get back to that level again. Mike says, I think we all know by Monday who's coming and who's going. Do we? I'm assuming Mike thinks that it's Bomel that's going and Preller's staying. Maybe it doesn't get decided by Monday. This meeting that they're going to have. Who knows if it gets decided by then? What is the most likeliest? How do I say this? What's the likeliest scenario? Is it Baumel stays, Preller goes? Is it Baumel goes, Preller stays? Is it both stay? Is it both go? I would be surprised if both go. I would probably be most shocked if both go. I wouldn't be surprised if it's one or the other. I wouldn't be surprised. I'd be more surprised if it's Baumel that stays and Preller that goes. But I would be most shocked if both leave. If both stay, I wouldn't be that shocked because I think that Seidler is like going to, maybe Grupner is as well, is going to really like try to force these guys to do this for one more year because there's a lot of other concerns about this roster going into the offseason than just who's running the team, right? Fix it, try to come together for one more season. Melvin going, Preller staying, definitely could see that. Preller going, Melvin staying. I could see that, but I would be surprised by that because Melvin, that's not like a long-term thing. This feels like 2024 and that he's done. Where with Preller, he's signed through 2026, I believe. And Seidler, again, going back to that July article, AJ's excellence, he didn't say that about Baumel. But Eric Grupner went on 97.3 The Fan last week and was criticizing AJ Preller and his roster construction and talking about how winning masks some things. So maybe he's on the side of Preller needs to be gone, but Seidler's on the side of Preller needs to stay. Grupner's the one that's going to be in the building for this meeting. Seidler probably not going to be. Seidler obviously has the final say, but maybe Grupner's going to use this opportunity to try to have some more influence on this team and the decision making because Seidler's not in the office every day. I don't know. That was brought up today. I forget what show I was listening to, but that point was brought up. I think it was Dennis Lin talking to Darren Smith today. But yeah, Dennis Lin, by the way, in that interview, he doesn't think that Baumel and Preller will be together in 2024. I won't be surprised if there's a split. I'd be more surprised if it's Baumel that stays and Preller goes than Preller stays and Baumel's the one that goes. Just because of the control that AJ has in this organization. Mark says, speaking about the TV contract, what's the deal with that for the Padres? Will they get a TV deal done? I believe so. I would think that they have a plan for 2024. If they don't, that's on them. Why? You should be planning. This year, the YurView stuff for Cox subscribers and all that, like, I think next year you're still going to have the MLB TV option, the single team. I wish it would just be every team, not just the team specific package. I think that's stupid. But yeah, they better have a TV contract because that's a lot of money that comes into the Padres. If they don't have a TV contract, yeah, that's trouble. That's definitely trouble. And you're going to have a lot of pissed off fans, I would say. All right, continuing to go through the chat here, almost an hour and a half in. Thank you all, those that are still tuning in here, watching on YouTube, live or on replay, or listening to the podcast platforms. I appreciate you all being here. Steven says, Baumel will not walk away voluntarily. That rumor is nonsense. I agree with that. I don't think he's going to quit on his coaching staff, the fans, his players. I don't see that happening. He is business-oriented and worked in the financial industry for a time. The Padres will have to pay his contract if they want out. Yeah, he's also would be giving up, I think, $4 million if he walks away. Instead of, if the Padres fire him, they still owe him the money. If he walks away, they don't owe him the money. So yeah, he's not, even if he wants to walk away, he's probably going to make the Padres fire. He'll probably just disagree all day with Preller at the meeting and make the Padres fire him so he can get the money. I don't see him walking away and forfeiting $4 million. That would be kind of stupid on his part, right? Yeah, I mean, this is a possibility, I guess, as well. Steven says Bob can make them fire him. He gets paid by the Padres, and he could still accept another manager job and get paid 2 salaries. There was I didn't read the article, but there was something about some writer that covers the Giants about the Giants maybe looking into Bob Melvin. If Bob Melvin leaves the Padres or Padres fire him, whatever. And because the Giants, some fans, they're not very happy with Gabe Kapler with the Giants and all that because they were in playoff positioning a lot this year, and now they're not. They're already officially eliminated. Bob Melvin, obviously, he had a relationship with Farhan Zaidi because Farhan was an assistant GM, I believe, with the A's at one point. Wasn't he with the Dodgers at one point as well? Or maybe he wasn't with the Dodgers. But I think he was with the A's and then he went to the Giants. So there's a relationship, probably familiarity there, something that wasn't there. Bob Melvin had never met AJ Preller before they met for the first time and talked about potentially pairing up here. So, yeah, interesting. All right. Let's see. My laptop's about to die, so only a few more comments here. Mark says, I heard a report Padres might go after JD Martinez for DH. What are your thoughts on that? I don't know why he would go to the Padres if the Dodgers would have him back. And he's on a 1-year deal, right? I think he could get a multi-year contract from someone. Now, if the Dodgers go get Ohtani, then JD Martinez probably isn't coming back to the Dodgers. Maybe the Padres go do that. I would like to have JD Martinez on the Padres, yeah. But JD Martinez is like a DH. And remember, Manny's not going to be ready to play the field at the beginning of the year, it seems like. So they're probably going to want to have Manny be the DH. And so you're going to have JD Martinez go play the outfield to start next season. I feel like the Padres like to have the flexibility for that DH spot. And I think Bob Melvin likes that as well. That's part of the disagreement between Preller and Melvin this year, right? I don't think he really wanted Matt Carpenter and Nelson Cruz taking up the DH every game at the beginning of this season. But that's what AJ Preller did with the roster construction and the depth, right? Lack of flexibility. Bob Melvin wants the flexibility. So I don't see JD Martinez coming to the Padres, but we'll see. SD Fan 44 asks, Soto or Ohtani? I mean, Ohtani's the best talent on the planet, so I probably would want to go with Ohtani. But there's injury questions there. It would be more money than Soto. There's a better chance of Soto coming or staying with the Padres than Ohtani coming to the Padres, I think. I don't think either's going to happen, though. Yes, and the Padres would be getting a lot of money if they got Ohtani in terms of like revenue coming in and all that. But they'd have to be paying a lot of money for that. And I don't think they're going to be one of the finalists for Ohtani based on the payroll situation, the money situation right now. Unless this is all wrong, which it could be, I guess, but I don't think it's all wrong. It's not just one reporter that's having these money questions. I mean, there's multiple reporters, multiple beat writers have mentioned about the money situation. Yeah, I'm seeing someone talk about, don't they call these games? They can call it a final after 6 or 7 because the Mets-Marlins game's in a rain delay. Yeah, but they wouldn't do that when it's like this. That's for like A's, White Sox, 2 teams out of a playoff race, or a game maybe that's like in June. Maybe they do that then. But when it's, 4 games left in the season and the Marlins are fighting for a postseason spot, they're not going to call the game. Yeah, I don't think they're going to call the game. They'll play that thing at 1 a.m. if that's what it takes. I don't think they would call it. Or they would just resume it. Are the Marlins the Marlins go to Pittsburgh, so I guess they can't resume it the next day. They'll probably just wait it out. Maybe the Mets don't care, but that the other teams in this wild card picture, the Padres would be pissed off. Now the Padres, they would have the least amount of room to talk because they did this to themselves. But the other teams that are involved there in this wild card race, they'd be pissed off that they call this game. That the Marlins didn't have to get the final 3 outs here in the bottom of the 9th. Yeah, because these are huge games. Let's see if there's. I'm trying to get to a couple more comments here. Before my laptop dies. Kevin says, I don't want to. Oh, sorry. Not I don't want to. Kevin says, I don't see Waka, Lugo, or Snell being back. I don't see Snell being back. I could see one of Waka or Lugo being back. Both is kind of hard for me to imagine, but I can see one of them coming back. I could see Seth Lugo coming back. Waka, Padres, maybe they don't want to take the $16 million club options for 24 and 25. There's the injury risk. Lugo's arm, remember, that stayed healthy this year. That was the calf that he got on the IL stint for, right? So I could see Lugo coming back, and seems like he's comfortable here. And Padres, they give him a raise. Maybe they give him 3 years. Maybe that's pushing it, but maybe they give him 3 years and he comes back. I could see one of them coming back. I don't see Snell coming back, but between Waka or Lugo, I could see Lugo coming back a little bit more than Waka. I think Waka's more proven, so maybe some more teams will be more willing to pay for Waka. We'll see. One more comment here. I'm going to try to find one more comment. Let's see. Irie says, Irie, good to see you here in this chat. I would hate to see Kim go, but Jake's contract and adding Bogarts messed that up for long term. Yeah. Yeah. But at the time, let's remember, a lot of people loved the Jake Cronenworth contract. It wasn't just me. There were people in the media that were excited about the Jake Cronenworth contract. And he was coming off of back-to-back All-Star appearances, coming off of, obviously, a huge moment in the NLDS. Someone that can play multiple positions. He's viewed as one of the leaders on this team, one of the leaders in the clubhouse. One of those maybe soft-spoken guys, but lead by example. Really, really cares, able to play multiple positions. I didn't hate it. Didn't hate it. And Ha-Seong Kim, we didn't know that this season was going to be coming for Ha-Seong Kim in 2023. And Xander Bogaerts, I mean, that's proven track record. The guy hit 300 last season. Multiple World Series titles for the Red Sox. The contract length, the amount of money, yeah, I didn't like that. But Xander Bogaerts, I loved seeing Xander Bogaerts signed with San Diego Padres. Like, I was fine with that, with Jake and with Bogaerts. The Jake extension, Bogaerts, him coming to the Padres. Didn't like the contract so much, but him coming to the Padres, I was fine with that. And I was fine with having Kim end up walking because Jackson Merrill will be coming up and you'll figure it out. I wasn't expecting Ha-Seong Kim to have this good of a season. And maybe next year he doesn't have as good of a season and doesn't replicate this season, and it's not that big of a deal for Ha-Seong Kim to be leaving. Who knows? And Jackson Merrill will be ready. Maybe he plays well next year. Like, things could happen to change our minds even next year on this. But yeah, adding Bogaerts, the Jake contract, it seems like that's what is going to prevent the Padres from having Kim come back on a long-term deal if Jake isn't traded. He might be. They could add him to a Soto deal if they trade him, but I don't see Soto being dealt. And that's the guy that I see Cronenworth being attached to in a trade. If a team wants Juan Soto, Padres say, okay, you take the Cronenworth contract then. If they would rather have Kim than Cronenworth long term. But I don't think the Padres want to be giving up on Jake Cronenworth here already when the new extension part of this hasn't even started yet. Like, think about that. This contract has not even started yet. All right. That's going to do it. Talking for Hours, episode 479. Do the Padres have to trade Juan Soto? I don't think so. Do the Padres need to trade Juan Soto? Give your thoughts in the comments on YouTube. Thank you so much for tuning in. Podcast platforms, you as well. Have a great rest of your night, everybody. See ya.